Confidence, magnetism, presence. What if I told you that the way you show up in intimacy is directly linked to how you show up in leadership? That the power you cultivate in your body, the way you embrace pleasure, trust yourself, and own your energy determines how the world responds to you. Today, we are diving deep into the connection between pleasure and power, intimacy and leadership, and how embracing your full emotional and sensual self makes you magnetic in every area of life. And I couldn't think of a better guest for this conversation than Simone. She's a powerful yoga, Reiki, and somatics trainer who helps people step into their embodied confidence. Together, we'll explore why true confidence isn't just about mindset. It's about how you move, how you breathe, and how you feel. We'll talk about how women stepping into their feminine energy creates space for men to step into their emotional depth. And we'll share some practical embodiment techniques to activate your presence instantly. If you have ever felt disconnected from your confidence, if you have ever wondered how to radiate power effortlessly, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome, Simone. Welcome to this episode 20 of the Limitless Lounge. And I'm so excited to have you here. This is truly a divine connection that's happening. And I really love this. And today we're going to talk about, I've told our viewers and audience that, we're going to talk about from bedroom to boardroom, as in how intimacy, how sensuality translates into leadership qualities as well. And not just that is something that cannot be spoken about. That is where we are at. So I hand it over to you if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit more as to what you do, how you do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am so grateful and honored and just obsessed with the universe and how we came together. So a little bit about me. My name is Simone Marie-Elise. I am the owner and founder of Ripples in the Matrix. And I use yoga as a full integrative system of healing. I created my own methodology, Yogi Soma, which integrates yoga with energetics and somatics, and it's award-winning, and I'm so grateful for that. That's like so incredible. I call myself a body wisdom navigator, using all of that to
Right.
really create and facilitate powerful spaces of transformation through the yoga journey to and path of self-actualization. So that's self-awareness, self-discovery, self-inquiry, self-realization, leading into that self-mastery piece, and then that
Right.
not ever elusive, I feel, because we're always growing, we're always evolving.
Right.
And then and then that self-actualization. So been on this journey for quite some time, since about 2017 or so.
Oh,
And
wow, that's long.
yeah. And born and raised in LA, residing in Vegas. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I could run through all my credentials and all that, but that might just bore the
Awesome.
the audience. But yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes. So great to connect with you, and I'm amazed at how universe works and how we connected. I think there's a lot to learn here. So let's just dive into this. So I just wanted to understand from you, and I'm going more deeper into this journey about I hear everybody talking about you have to fake it until you make it. You just have to force the confidence. You have to do this, do that. But what I believe is that true confidence comes from embodiment. How do you define embodied confidence, and how do you think it differs from this fake it until you make it, or maybe the surface level confidence? What is your take on it?
Yeah, I feel like confidence is something that not only that you feel within yourself, but it is felt through
Yes.
from others.
Yes.
It's really that energy of it's an energy of presence. It's like the energy gets pulled to you or to the person who is in their power.
Mhm.
And if we think about confidence, that's coming from the solar plexus, that is coming from our seat of power.
Yes.
And power, confidence, pride, all these things get such a bad rap It's depending on how they are used, how they are viewed, and all of those things. And really, if we don't have that, we can stifle all of our energy back down into our lower chakras, and then we end up
Right,
having like constant cycle that's nothing's actually coming up.
right.
And it's through the activation of our confidence to actually like know who you are. And it's not only a knowing, it's an acceptance to where you like you own your past, you own, you know, what you came from, you own your all of your stories,
Mm.
and you've come to this place of being able to share them with such without the emotional attachment that comes with it. Because remember, the energy is moving up the chakras, that emotional
Right.
attachment is down in the sacral, down in the
Mm.
root, and
Mm.
we're having this like it has to we have that attachment energy that the root
Mm.
carries. We
Right.
move it up through that solar plexus, and then all of a sudden it goes
Mm.
whoosh, the
Yeah.
heart expands, and you
Yes.
see people that are confident, they're walking proud, their
Proud,
shoulders
straight.
back,
Yes. The
straight
posture.
spine, supported by
Mm.
themselves, right?
Mm.
And I
Yes.
really feel that that's where this that confidence is. It's innate within you. You don't need
Right.
to hear like um all the beautiful things that people like want to
Mm.
give to you and say about you and all those things. We take them and we accept, we're grateful for them, yet it's they're not, those things don't qualify our character or our
Mm.
identity. And it really creates this just sense of like you are in your power. And when I think about
Yes.
embodiment, you know, and that term, I feel, you know, it's going around so much right now as well.
Right.
And I really try, I created a mastermind for
Mm.
women called Embodied Wisdom, not
Right.
embodied, but like
Embodied.
in.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like,
Got
it's
it.
really
Mm.
that innate energy within you. It's,
Beautiful.
yeah, and it's really that sense. And it's not necessarily that fake it till you make it might
Yeah.
work a little bit. It does work for a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think like, you know, like you have to start somewhere, but
Mm.
then you realize that like the pattern show, the everything that you hadn't worked
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
yet gets revealed, and you're like, oh, there I am.
I completely agree with what you say, and I can't agree more because I truly believe this fake it until you make it does not take you too far.
Yeah.
Because up till a time you can maybe say fake it until you make it, but then you have to, like you said, you have to feel it inside in your body. How do you feel it inside? And when we spoke about the chakras, I think uh, given that I'm also from the yoga space, when you talk about the Manipura, I've heard so many people that, okay, my throat is blocked. Oh, I can't feel so much in my heart. Or for that matter, even if I have to go lower, so even they don't feel as much creativity or as much pleasure or as much expression. So I say that, okay, that is your sacral that you need to work upon, right? But then people think about sacral only to relate with sexual energy. While that is, I mean, you can tell me if it is different, but I think it is completely not true, because it is not
Yeah.
just one thing that is related to any chakra. There are multiple things. So your creativity, your expression is also where your sacral comes into play. The more you are expressive, and then there are people I've led people through certain meditations, and then people are like, oh, I can't see the red color, I can't see the, what is this root chakra that you're talking about, I can't see the red at all. And I'm like, okay, then maybe you're too much in your head. So maybe you are just thinking, and I think this is mostly with the men because they're all here. There's no connection underneath, because they're all in the over the head that, okay, this is where we are going to be. And so yeah, this makes total sense to me when you talk about, in body confidence and coming from inside rather than just faking it. So you have to be really connected from top to bottom, because
Yeah.
otherwise you can be operating from the head space, and you may
Mhm.
not be operating at all from what your core is. when I talk about core, when I'm talking about the lower chakras, the root and the sacral, you don't know about them. You're not so connected to them, and that is what makes it, I think, so difficult for people, and if I have to link it, if we see women today, how they are conditioned not to be too expressive, not to
Mm.
be too open, not to be too vocal, not to be too, especially I'm in India. So I think it is more to do with that, here at least, that no, you can't talk, you can't laugh loudly. When I was a kid, I think I was asked not to laugh too loudly because, oh, you're a girl, you're not supposed to laugh too loudly. I'm like, what?
Right.
I mean, I can laugh as loud as I want to, but that's how it was conditioned. So, and you see how what I'm getting at. So, do you think that is there a relation between, if I have to put it simply, is there a relation between lower chakras and the higher chakras? Or do you think there's a relation between how you show up in your intimate relationships and how we show up in leadership? And are there any common patterns where people struggle with both?
Well, I feel let's go back to yoga for a second. As on your mat, so in your life. So as on the inside, so on the outside.
Yes.
So if that connection is not happening internally, it's not going to show externally, or it's not going to happen for you externally, or
Right.
you will be mirrored back to you of the work that you need to do. And until you have the self-awareness to actually look inward, you're going to think everyone else needs to get fixed or needs
Mhm.
to fix themselves before you
Right.
start looking at yourself. And there was that piece in there where you mentioned about like men and like that disconnection, right? And if we think about it, they that them being so much in their head and not necessarily embodied in their root and their lower chakras, even, I feel it goes throat,
Yes.
and it's power from here, and this
Yes.
is where that pride energy comes in,
Yes.
because the pride that shows, and not to say that pride is wrong, but it can be misused.
Yes.
And when it is misused, the confidence energy that shows up is very um sharp, very assertive, like too assertive. There isn't any grace in it. There isn't any
Right. Right.
like that feminine energy, which
Yeah.
is in the
Yeah.
lower chakras, to
Yeah.
provide some extra little,
Right.
and some cushion. And so like that, the connection between, what's happening outside versus inside, and can we separate them? I don't necessarily think that we can. You can't. Okay, no, you can, until you realize that you are separated from them.
Yes. 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 No, you can until you can't anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And really it's like, the the energy and like and that expression piece and all of that, it is a truly, I feel like it's a lifelong journey, just like the path of yoga. Like we get into this space of, oh, like it's like you're continuously meeting parts of yourself. You're continuously finding out how they want to be expressed, if you even want to express them. But like it's coming into awareness that they are there for yourself. Because the more that you do that and the more that you see it, the more that it's, if we want to play power dynamics, the less that it can be used against you. Like I
Right.
remember when I was like, okay, I'm going into my business and I'm doing all this, and I was like, I have to release this story, and I was asked to be on a podcast,
Mhm.
and I just decided to like lay out my past on it, because I knew that I didn't want it to come back. I didn't want it to come back and have it be like the person that it involved have some
Yeah.
sort of like try to power play on me, and a
Yes.
misuse of that person's solar plexus and that power to really just like try to hurt me. And I'm like, you actually can't hurt anyone who knows what they are and who they are, and they own it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think knowing who you are at your core and then being able to operate from that, so when we talk about, I recently made a reel on this about when we are talking about that we find people or we attract people who are emotionally disconnected with us, do we question ourselves? Are we disconnected with ourselves?
Mm.
You know, do we try to even understand that where is that disconnection coming from?
Yeah.
And the moment you make that switch, that this is coming from me and I need to be more connected to myself, I think the other person loses their power,
Mm.
completely loses their power. So
Mm-hmm.
you can translate it to personal relationship. You can translate this to professional relationships. I think you can translate it anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I
That,
agree.
what is this about? How connected are you with yourself rather than the connection that you're looking for outside?
Yeah, and just to touch on that real quick, it's like also that discernment piece to know
Mm.
it's very honorable for us to always look inward and to acknowledge our self-awareness.
Yes.
And sometimes that can be a detriment, especially for women, to
Mm.
be like, this is a me thing, when in actuality, we're trying to hold someone else's work instead of like, actually, this isn't a me thing. And I'm going to be okay with this isn't a me thing. I'm still going to hold my power, hold my confidence in my
Right.
knowing, and
Right.
then and see how that like power, the confidence in your knowing, you once one gets like clicked in, the other
Mm.
one like as well. And I think then you speak from truth because you're speaking from your heart. You're speaking that your personal truth. Um, so yeah, so I think that's also like very important that we use discernment with our self-awareness, that we're not just taking ownership of someone else's inner work that they need to do. And that also,
Absolutely.
that's a very like hard thing to do sometimes, because those of us that love to go on the inner work journey, which we have talked about that we love to do,
Yes.
it's really like, oh well, it has to be a me thing. And that's almost like the ego playing its part on the other way to like have you do other work that you don't need to be doing.
Yeah, but then I don't know if everybody is ready for it. And
Yeah.
if we should be calling it out also, I
Yeah.
mean, because some people don't want to work on it. Some
Yeah.
people are okay with not working on it. Not everybody is ready. Like you said, it's a journey, right? So maybe we
Mm.
have come from point A to point B on this journey as we explored, and somehow life and the universe led us to this point, and maybe it is not their time yet. Maybe it will
Right.
come in this lifetime, maybe it will not come in this lifetime. So it is
Right.
your job to just understand that you are not playing from ego, in the sense that oh, this person needs to work. First we need to look at ourselves continuously, that we need to work. And if you feel that there's a misalignment, then if it's a family member, maybe you can't do much about it. But if it's somebody outside, you just try to see how you can, if you want to, then distance yourself. So let me ask you something, that in since you've been working into this field of yoga, Reiki, somatics, so how have you seen the body hold on to the confidence, or the lack of it? And how do you think we can start shifting that, maybe physically first and then mentally?
Yeah, I think shifting it physically is actually the way to go first. Shifting that physical, the mind will follow the body
Mhm.
once the body is on board.
Yes.
And when otherwise the mind's running the show and running the body.
Right.
And then since that mind body connection via the vagus nerve is so palpable, and that transmission, the communication is always happening.
Right.
So that fake it till you make it, yeah, you
Mhm.
can put on the blazer and the makeup or the suit and the tie and do the whole thing. But if it's not innate within you, your shoulders are going to shrug,
Right.
you're going to slouch, you're going to
Right.
find yourself sitting in the corner, or
Right.
finding that like you're not going to lean in, you're not going to raise your hand, you're not going to use your voice, you
Right.
know, and so that shifting it on the body level is definitely, where it is, but yet it's also about getting the mind on board. So we have to actually, in my opinion, and in the work that I do, is I actually make it very known of like the things that happen in trauma, the things that happen to the mind and how it shuts down, and why we repeat patterns, because then we essentially call the mind forward, and it's the brain forward, and it's like, oh, I haven't been working in the correct way. And once the brain kind of knows that, then it has more logic behind it. And when the logic kicks in, it's like, okay, well, this is how I'm actually supposed to be operating. And then the body can start to follow. And then when you start to cultivate that inner awareness and that introspection, you really get to see, oh, okay, like my mom has this phrase, and it's so good. I say it like all the time. If there's a disturbance, it lies within you. It's not anyone else. It is a you thing. So you're the one having the experience that you're having, the emotional role, whatever that emotional response is to the
Right.
trigger. That is something that your body is asking for you to look at. And it's gonna, it could show up as really sharp hip pain. For me, that's what happened to me. This is why part of why I started my journey, is because I had, after my first 200-hour yoga teacher training, I did a weekend training. So it was like 9-10 weeks or something. And so I was opening my body up and then closing it down. And then anytime that I wanted to like be vulnerable or share, there were like 22 of us in there. There wasn't enough time. So I had to shut down, shut in. And then all the while, like I didn't feel, and this is my perspective at the time, or I don't remember, the real connection being established to what's actually happening to us emotionally and physically and spiritually and mentally, that's happening in yoga. And when you can actually intertwine those things, you get to see okay, what is actually here? So when I teach Yogi Soma, what I'm constantly doing is you will feel in your body, and this goes with anything. You don't necessarily have to be in a yoga pose to do this practice, but you literally, there's a presenting sensation, whether that's pain, resistance, like a sharp shooting something, or like this, like anything. There's a presenting situation that the body's experiencing. And then when you ease into that and you're like, okay, well, what's underneath here? And the body starts to relax because the mind is now focused on what it is that the body's feeling. The body said, okay, I have your attention. And like it starts to settle. And then from there, you actually get to see, okay, is there any emotion that's underlying the first initial sensation? And then from there, you can start to develop a relationship to that emotion. You can ask questions. Because you're in that open and vulnerable state, that it creates this safety within yourself, within the body, for it to be like, okay, well, and then I'm always talking to myself in it. And it's like, okay, well, what about if we just do this? Let's just try. Let's just see how that feels. No, okay. Okay, we're not ready yet. And it's just like, you have so much grace, you have compassion,
Right.
just as if you were talking to like a younger version of you, or a
Yes.
little child, or your own child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
I know. I understand what you're saying because in yoga we constantly try to push our bodies rather than relax. So how I started yoga maybe about 13 years back, like seriously, professionally getting into a TTC and doing all of this. And then went on to do 200, 300, and all of that. But then the thing is, when I was at my lowest in 2016, I just couldn't get onto the mat. I couldn't. I was like, I don't want to look at the mat. I don't even want to get on it. I don't want to do any postures. I don't want to do anything. Okay. And I went through some therapy sessions, yoga therapy sessions, where I was put into restorative postures and stuff like that. And I had to really force myself to do it, because after a set of sessions, after about I think 20 sessions is what I took. After that, my teacher, or my the therapist, said that it's your journey. You have to go on your own now. And then you're left to your own tools, your own methods, and your own ways to find out things. So I took those little things, And then I just kept on building on that
Mm.
how do I feel? What do I feel? Or do I not feel? And I used to get these crazy, crazy tremors back then, through the night. I used to tremble like nobody was trembling. And it was a scene out of Exorcist movie, Exorcist movie or something like that. It was literally like that. I would become somebody else, and I'm not kidding. So,
Yeah.
and I was scared of myself. I was really, really scared of myself, that what I was capable of saying or doing, or harming me or harming somebody else. I didn't know what was happening. And
Yeah.
but at the end of the tremor, whenever the tremor would end, whoever was next to me, say a friend or anybody else who was next to me, I would ask them for a hug, that, just hug me. And if you look back, and when I started looking back at that, and, when I started understanding it, and I think those tremors have not gone away. I had a visit from it, I think in recently in January, and a very, very strong visit. Okay. So, and even then, a friend was with me, and I said, hug me. And but if I look back, what is it that I'm calling for? I'm calling for safety. I'm calling for security. I'm calling for, being embraced. So maybe, and just maybe, and this is my thought, that maybe I did not embrace all of me somewhere. Maybe I just ignored certain parts of me for it to come back. Maybe I was disconnected with myself somewhere, because even in yoga, we or when we are setting up something, you go on the doing mode. We want to do. Where is the feeling part?
Right.
You know,
Right.
you forget
Yeah.
about the feeling part. You forget
Yeah.
about the resting part. So I was realizing this, and I'm teaching people to rest, to relax, to do everything. But when am I resting? Where
Mm.
is my rest? When am I
Yeah.
kind of taking care of myself? When is that happening? And then I realized, okay, that is not happening. No, I'm constantly on wired. I'm constantly on the go. I'm
Yeah.
constantly thinking, because because then perfectionism comes in, and then other things come in, and then you are like, oh, okay, so this is what is happening, and then you have to catch yourself doing
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but, when we talk about, so this is about, if I have to put it simply, then this is about the separation between pleasure and power.
Mhm.
If you think about it, that we, or I thought that if I'm indulging in pleasure, indulging in rest, indulging in taking care of myself, that is indulging. You see the word indulging, right?
Mhm.
And whereas the other thing is just being more disciplined, more into my work, my business, my stuff, right?
Yeah.
So how do you see that at I I am seeing it and I am doing it, but then how do, for our audience, how do you see that, pleasure is a tool for deep confidence and leadership? That is what I want to come to.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing in that as well is really that balance of the masculine and the feminine. We
Right.
think about the pleasure being the feminine and the masculine
Yeah.
being the power. That's one way to look at it. But also, I feel like in both of those energies, the true embodiment of them is presence. It's being present with what you are doing to actually receive the pleasure from eating an apple or
Absolutely.
going on a walk or
Absolutely.
taking rest and
Yes.
just like being outside and enjoying the wind and instead of being all mad because your hair is getting messed up
Yeah.
or something, and it's really, I think, really identifying, and this is a personal journey, one, what pleasure is for you, and two, what power is for you.
Absolutely.
Because if you have, depending on those definitions, you really like to actually cultivate them and to feel like you can hold them. I think that's going to be um where the work is. If we think that power is only happening if we're in our, like, in success in business, or like,
Right.
can power be, period, can power be in the being,
Yes.
and can you also find pleasure in just being?
Right.
And I think that's, yeah. That's kind of where my brain is going with that at the moment.
Beautiful. I think that beautifully summarizes it, that can you find both pleasure and power in just being? And and do you really know how to just be then in that
Yeah.
case? Like you gave beautiful examples of, do you find pleasure in eating an apple, or do you find pleasure in taking a walk, or do you find pleasure in having a conversation? Right? So I can, like I always say this, I can be here, but my mind can be elsewhere. And then there
Mm-hmm.
is no fun in this conversation that we are having. Right?
Yeah.
If only and only if I'm 100% here, I'm giving my 100% here. Only then this conversation becomes engaging, or interesting for both the people.
Right.
Otherwise,
And
I could.
also pleasurable for you.
Exactly. And otherwise, I could just be looking at the phone. I could be listening to you halfway through, and I could be, I mean, for the lack of a better word, half-assing it.
Yeah.
But there's no pleasure in it. It is just, like I said, it's just the difference between hearing and listening,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
listening and active listening.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So if you understand the difference between those, then I think all the conversations that you have, whether it is with a partner or whether it is in a boardroom, I think then it becomes much more, that much more meaningful, that much more pleasurable, that much more enjoyable for everybody involved, not just for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, because the more that you can bring pleasure into power, the less like rigid that power becomes. What were you
Yes.
gonna say?
I was just adding to it that, when you are suppressing pleasure, you're
Mm-hmm.
also suppressing power
Mm-hmm.
somewhere.
Exactly. Exactly. Because when we think about it too, like say a CEO in a company, right? It's like, okay, well, I have to assert my power, but like the more that a CEO can create culture in their company, and that culture actually facilitates an energy of like working together and being very, connection and establishing a better, just a better overall company culture. You in that your people are finding more pleasure in the work that they are doing, which
Right.
they in turn will then start to empower you and empower the company.
Yes.
And then hopefully, which if this person's regulated in this way, then you actually get pleasure out of other people stepping into their power
Yes.
and uplifting themselves and uplifting each other. And like actually it becomes its own little ecosystem rather than I can
Right.
only be the powerful one. It's
Right.
like, no, we all get to be powerful in your gifts, in your talent, in your abilities, etc., and bring them all here. And then let's find the pleasure of helping them work together so that we all can become more powerful. And then the whole ecosystem of the entire company becomes a lot more manageable and pleasurable to work in.
Amazing. I think that's truly amazing. Just for the audience, if you could just give some practices where they can reconnect with their pleasurable self in some way or other on a day-to-day basis, just to amplify their presence and that leadership energy, what would be some of the things that you could suggest?
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm. I mean, taking a pause. I think taking a pause, like, and just like, letting yourself have a moment without having to assume that everything has to be done right as it's asked. Like, letting yourself have that discernment of, okay, what needs quick action and to have it be like achieved, and what in that action when it's being achieved, can you be in it? As you were saying, can you fully be in writing the email without also being on the phone and also eating or drinking your coffee or whatever the thing is? Can you simply do the thing that you are doing
Right.
and watch how, like, in the conversation that you are maybe writing back and forth, like you actually like you can find the human on the other side of the screen that you're talking to, and you can actually find yourself in that human. Like, how would you actually want to be communicated to? How would you actually want to like um feel?
Wow. I think this is gold, what you said, that can you find the human in the other person, or a piece of you in the other person, and then operate from that angle. I think this is
Yeah,
amazing, really, really amazing,
yeah.
that people to realize that everybody is just the same. And if you start treating others in that manner, it becomes even more pleasurable.
The power outweighs, the power goes in the overdrive, and then all of a sudden you think you're getting what you want because you asserted this false sense of power to
Right,
whomever, and they
right.
just caved. And then now you're operating from that, the egoic sense of pride,
Yes.
instead of the pride that's just like confidence.
So while we're talking about pride and confidence and stuff like that, I think one of the things that is happening is women are stepping more into their feminine energy, the confidence and everything else. And do you think maybe they are, while doing that, are they um going away from the softness or the intuition, or if they are going more into softness, intuition, receptivity, or stuff like that, then how do they bring that out in their partners without overwhelming them, that, oh, I am so receptive, why are you not so receptive, or I am so intuitive, or I understand the emotion, why can't you understand the emotion? So how do you think they can bring a shift in their partners without really pushing them? No, let's talk about that a little bit.
Number one, I think that they actually need to create the shift in themselves to manage the expectation that the man actually has the same wiring as the brain as the woman, because they don't.
Right.
Literally, women have a larger emotional center of the brain. We are when we are little, we're looking at facial expressions. We're looking for emotional reactions and responses. Men aren't doing that. They're looking for things to do, things to accomplish, even from when they are very young. And it's actually about articulating. We have to articulate to men our needs. We have to likely reinstate them. We have to say them over and over again. We have to also ensure that when we are stating them, that they are present with us, that they're not on their phone, that they're not doing the dishes, that they're not cooking, that they're not working. Because
Mm,
men also have a very one track, like one thing at a time. Like, it's
right.
great when they can multitask and all of that, but
Mm,
also see what happens when they start to multitask.
mm,
Usually a lot of things
yeah.
get started and nothing gets finished. And we love
Right.
that. Like, it's beautiful. So we actually have to support their chemical makeup and, really, like, also bring this, like, can we give them thanks and gratitude and applause for all the things that they are doing? Because that's actually going to allow them to be more receptive, potentially,
Mm,
to this inner work that the female loves to do.
right.
And, men, let's circle back to the beginning, super in their heads, not in touch with their emotions. They don't even know what is happening inside of them. Excuse me. Sorry, I just slipped out. They don't know they don't, until they know, they don't know that
Exactly.
if there's a disturbance, the problem lies within you.
Mm,
They don't want to feel it. They don't know how to feel it. They don't know how to move it. And so it is our one of the beautiful things. Like, it's so great that men and women are not the same.
right.
It is so incredible. And yes, we get to lead them, but we have to not lead without expectation that they will do the work in
Right.
our desired timeline. Our
Right.
desired timeline is not their timeline, and neither one of those timelines are the, like, God source, whatever you want to call it, that timeline. We
Right.
have to just, and I think the best way to do it is actually to lead by example, to really just simply, and we have to also acknowledge, where are they being receptive? Where are they, like, asking more questions? If you keep giving someone a man a book your partner a book and he's like, do you know how many hours I just worked this week? And now you want to give me another task to do. Can you
Right.
give me the Cliff Notes version? That would probably
Right.
help them out a lot better than giving them a homework
Yes,
assignment.
absolutely.
So, so
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that there's, really women coming to that understanding first of men of
Mm,
how they operate. That's number one. And then also, you know, not having the expectation that they're gonna even do it. We can want for someone so much, but we can lead a horse to water, we can't make them drink. And we have to
exactly.
we get to
Yes.
also have that deciding factor of like, okay, like
Yes.
how much energy do we want to put into this?
Exactly.
Into them changing.
Mm,
And also like remember how long you've been on this journey. Because here's the thing, men start that journey way later, typically,
absolutely.
way
Yes.
later,
Yes.
and women start it way earlier. So men have all this extra time that they have to unlearn and learn themselves. And we have been doing it from here. And
Yes.
they haven't done it for this whole time.
Yes.
And so we do surpass that. I don't even like that word, but we do kind of go ahead. And I think we go ahead so that we can lead them, so that they can have that softness to land into, so they can have that safety to land into. That safety is not the nagging, the complaining,
Mm,
and all of those negative things that women can start to do
right.
can start to do
Yeah.
when things aren't going their way.
Mm, mm. Great. I think this is so amazing. And you rightly said that you're nagging, complaining, and everything else is not going to make the man do the work. In fact, if anything, it will, in all probability, push him away. Okay. Because
Totally. And push him right into his work, his
exactly.
actual physical work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because I think, and it also comes from this that men are so conditioned, like I spoke about this in the beginning, that women are conditioned to suppress uh, their expression,
Mhm.
right? And men are conditioned to suppress their emotions.
Mhm.
And they are asked to rely on the logic that this is what makes you the alpha male, that when you kind of rely only on the logic, how do you recognize rather that a man is actually beginning to step into his emotional depth, and how do we as women encourage that rather than, like you said, just that trying to fix them, rather than trying to
Yeah.
fix them, how do we encourage them rather than trying to fix them?
Yeah. Well, the recognition piece is usually like they start asking questions. They get actually intrigued by the work that you're doing. They start to notice, like, oh my gosh, like you used to totally go crazy for a whole week when so and so would do so and so, and now you're just like, it just rolls off your back. Like you're
Right,
changing. They start to notice the change that is happening.
right,
And also that change might even be like, oh, you have new boundaries. And I'm trying to, they have to orientate themselves within those boundaries. And so they start to like have their own like internal process. And at some point, I don't really know what that point is, but and I feel like it's everyone's human journey. We get sick of our own shit. We have this moment. We have this moment where we're like,
right.
I remember for me, I went from pointing the finger at everyone else to all of a sudden literally have no one else to point the finger at. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, I'm the common denominator in every single one of my relationships.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a me thing. Oh, this is happening within me. I'm getting mad that someone cut me off or
Oh,
whatever the thing is, and it's ruining my whole day. Oh, that wasn't them. That was me because of how I was activated by it and how I chose to respond to it. So for women, like I really think, you know, when we create that safety for men, they have somewhere to land. The last thing they want to hear is any sort of complaining or you need to do it this way, or this is how it's done, or whatever. It's like, you know, show them the path, show them, and also like in very manageable ways, tasks. Like I'll give them certain tasks to do of like, you know, hey, like I really noticed, first of all, always give that compliment too. I really saw that how you didn't blow up on your son when he crashed the car. I don't know, knock on wood. but like I saw that, like I'm so like that's
Right.
so awesome. Like and invite a conversation about it, because they have to learn how to articulate their emotions. They have to learn how to understand them. And in order for them to feel safe to do that, we have to create the safe space, and then also activate that space by asking questions, giving them opportunity, be like, hey, like I I I mean, I do this with my partner all the time. Like I felt a shift. Like, we good? Is everything good? Is there anything you need to talk about? Just clear the air. Like, and just like it's an open thing. And he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought something shifted. Great. And it's just like it's just a way to like communication is so key. I can't express that enough. And, you know, level, neutral communication without the emotional charge, without the
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster that can happen in either way. The men go into that power and that assertion, or they can go into shutdown,
Yes.
you know, and women go into all of it too, in our own different ranges
Yes.
and
Yes.
flavors of it. And I
Yes.
think when women start to get more self-expressed and we come more into this embodiment, and this is a projection, but and I think this is I feel that this is shifting. It's not coming from a place of, we were talking about this on the live the other day, but like this feminist energy, it's not
Yes.
coming from this, I don't need a man.
Yes.
It's coming from this, like, I know how to hold a man because I know how to hold all parts of myself. I can hold myself with or without one, having one or not.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yet I also know the value
Obviously.
of a man.
Yes.
And the men, the entire ecosystem of the planet would not be operating if men weren't fully in their power.
Yes.
And I think with the dynamics that's happening in so many different ways,
Hmm.
gender dynamics, all these different things that are happening, it's really turning into, in my opinion, it's not only like a play on the children, but it's a play on the men to disarm them, to shift their power, because if the men aren't in power, no one's safe. And I'm saying that in their power. Like I'm sorry, I don't want to have to go raise arms for anyone or for anything. Like there's things that men, that it's within them.
Right.
It's always been there, and that's been their, you know, that like pillar of themselves. And it's really so beautiful to see them in that. And I love when
Absolutely.
men are fully in their masculine and are in touch with their feminine and really connected to their heart, and like might cry when they see something on Instagram that makes them just
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, and being okay with that, right?
Yeah.
And just like, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, it's so
I
beautiful.
know.
And then when men show that, it's like, oh my gosh, like that
Yeah.
was so beautiful. And just
Yeah.
having, like, they get to feel safe, like, oh my God, okay, this part of me is safe. Just
Yeah.
like women, oh my gosh, this part of me is safe. The
Yes.
men are asking for the same thing. They just don't even know they need to ask for it.
Exactly, exactly. I think you beautifully said it, you know, when and I think I spoke about this in the last episode wherein I said that an alpha male is not somebody who knows to be masculine, who knows to be hard all the time. You know, an alpha male is somebody who knows when that masculinity is needed and when the femininity is needed. when do you need to be really hard, strong man in that sense? And when do you need to be softer and learn to maybe enjoy the more beautiful things of life, or the life that it has to offer? So that includes, crying over maybe a silly movie scene, or just laughing at something else. I think that is what, and if you see a lot of advertisements, they don't portray a true man or a complete man. I think I remember this ad from Raymond's, it shows a complete man where he's going into the business, doing his own stuff. And, but when he comes back to family, he's taking care of everybody around him, as parents, wife, everybody else. So that is the definition of a complete man. It's not just about being that uh going on the fields, and thank God they do that, like you said, thank God they do that, going and fighting and taking on the world on their shoulders. But they also need to know that they can be emotional, and they have spaces to be emotional. I think that is very, very important. So what I would ask is that if somebody were to work with their somatic expression, or somebody were struggling, especially men who are struggling with this, is there a practice that you would suggest that they can help them kind of not to struggle, or to feel, help them feel safe in their emotions? That how can they feel safe in their emotions? Is there something else that you can share?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we think about embodiment and somatic practices, it's really about literally fully bringing the energy into ourselves.
Yes.
And so, say anger or sadness or weakness, like what does that actually look like in the body? And I work with this with men and women, and men, like they're kind of what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, like go, like bring the posture in. And when I see that shift that happens when they fully go there.
Mm.
And I'll never forget, I have this one client and he like was able to go into his younger self where he was really feeling scared and helpless and worried, and I was like, okay, now beautiful, now like go continue to stay with it and then ask it what it needs. Like, what is it asking for of you right here? And it started to have this like, you just let the body freely move. You let the body do what it wants to do. It literally may want to go hide underneath the blanket. It might want to go hide in the corner. It might want to hide behind the curtains. It may want to do whatever it wants to do. Let it physically go into it, because the more that you can, instead of just like trying to think about it, hi men, we know that you're great at that, but the more that you can bring it into the body, the more
Mm.
that you're opening up the vagus nerve is like, okay, like all of
Yes.
this it's happening, like it's happening within you, and
Right.
you get to essentially complete, reconcile, and fully have, like, say, the totality of the quote unquote memory that was resulting in the emotional response. And so you allow yourself to go there, and you also allow, like, for your own personal self to kind of be here, like activate that watcher energy, and you get to see what, like, okay, like this, it's we're doing this, like, okay, oh wow, really? And it's like you're conversating with the body, and it's like, oh, okay, you want to do this, okay, let's go into that, okay. And
Right.
like, it's so you're kind of creating multiple energies within you. And then it's like, okay, now what does it actually need? When you full into it, and it's like, okay, well, it really wants to stand up for itself. Great. What does that look like?
Yes.
And take on that character fully standing up for itself. Take on the energy. What does it want to say? How does it want to express? Does it, if it just wants to scream and stomp, depending on the age of the
Right.
character, right?
Mm.
Beautiful. Let it, like, and then watch how it shifts. And then coming into this idea of like, now realizing when we go into this, I want to run and hide, and I
Mm.
want to assert very strong.
Mm.
What are they both asking for in this? You'll find there's going to be something that's very similar within both of those energies. and you work to find a new way for it to be given. Maybe instead of hiding or screaming or throwing a temper tantrum, maybe it's writing a letter. Maybe it's I don't know. It's gonna be different for every single person. Or maybe
Yes.
it's a certain phrase that it wants to say, and it's a certain posture that it wants to take, and it's just
Right.
gonna be like hands on hips or just
Yeah.
whatever. And
The
you
power
bring
poses.
whatever it is, yeah, the power pose,
Mm.
and it just lets
Yeah.
it be there, and you just get to see, oh, because at
Mm.
some point the body gets exhausted. The body
Yeah.
gets exhausted from hiding. It gets exhausted from the over assertion of the thing. And
Absolutely.
there it finds this center. And
Right.
in that it finds its presence. And then you can notice anytime that you want to go into hiding, oh, it's asking for, let's say it is asking for presence. I know how to give that to myself. And then you've created a whole new way to actually give that to yourself without having to go to either side of the pendulum swinging.
Amazing. Amazing. I think this is so beautiful, and it is not only for men, this is for anybody who is listening to this. And I can share a personal experience just to go for it.
Yeah.
um a few days back, I was feeling very when I was asking these questions about that, why am I inviting emotionally disconnected people, and then asking myself, am I emotionally disconnected with myself? And then I thought, okay, what can I do more to emotionally connect back to myself? And then for me, the answers came in the form of, okay, take care of yourself more, maybe do a little bit of more self-care, maybe rest a little bit more, and don't go on binge watching just because you don't want to sleep. Rather, just shut that down and go off to sleep, because it's
Yeah.
easy to tell others. It's very difficult to tell yourself. And
Yeah.
I just did that. And then one thing that came to me, like you talk about writing, I'm a huge fan of journaling. It is so revealing in so many ways. It has brought me so many insights, so many experiences, I would say. And that's what I did. I took on journal, and I journaled every day. And uh and and my whole mindset just shifted. No. And I was like, okay, this is how it feels like to be back in my power. This is how I want to be. So if somebody is coming and doing or not doing something which is maybe not in agreement with how I want to be, I just don't let it affect me.
Yeah.
I know whether I want to react or don't want to react to this. I know that whether my body is asking for that kind of a conversation or not. And if it is not, then I'm just gonna be.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, you know, keep on pondering about it. Oh, this happened and that happened, and that
Yeah.
all of those things. And that creates, I think, a huge um, shift in the way you think, in the way you process things, in the way you manage everything around you, including your work, including your relationships, including every aspect of your life. So you start giving more attention to yourself. When I say yourself, I also mean your health, your nutrition, your care, your everything. You stop looking at them as chores. You start enjoying them. That this is what I'm doing for myself because I enjoy it. This is what I need
Yeah.
at this point in time. And
Yeah.
I think that whole thing, the whole shift that it brings in is just amazing. It's just
Yeah.
realizing that.
And I want to touch on one thing you said right there. You said that I know what my body needs. And I think that's in and of itself a big journey, like a big trust factor. It's developing that intuition within yourself, and it's something that it's a practice.
Yes,
And the sooner that we can actually like listen to the body, the
exactly.
the better that you actually can understand what it's asking for. And
Right.
when we disassociate from the body, and this is why my kind of like my qualm with in studio yoga practices, because a teacher is blindly guiding you to do something, and they're not in you. They're not in your body. They can't feel what you're feeling. They don't know all your
Right.
injuries and all
Right.
your traumas and
Right.
all your the thing that just happened 2 minutes before you stepped on your mat. And you go in, and depending on your mindset and whatever, past programs, I mean, I used to run the program that I'm not good enough, and it would show up on my mat all the time. And I would reinforce it by continuously going to the teacher that I know that wouldn't give me any sort of accolades, but all the time I knew that it was myself asking for the reflection of, dude, you're amazing, right? And when we go into these spaces, we have to be just very, very, very mindful. Any sort of practices and group sessions, or even just practice with self, really of just like, okay, that's why I asked, like, what do you need? What are you asking for? Is this enough for you? Just because I give a cue doesn't mean you have to do it. If where
Right.
you are is where you need to be,
Exactly.
trust that the next phase will be there whenever you decide to go there. But it's like, and whenever we disassociate from, no, stay, you're getting that, no, let's stay. And you're like, but they said I need to do this. And you
Right.
go into the doing of the other thing,
Right.
your body is immediately, oh, you're not listening. And then the mind kicks in, and it's like, oh, I know what to do. The ego kicks in. I know what to do here when someone's
Yeah.
not listening. I'm going to go do this. I got to be the teacher's pet. I have to go do yada, yada. And so we reinforce the exact pattern that we're actually working to break every single time
Right.
that we disconnect from our body. And this skill, it's at the beginning, it feels very uncomfortable. And I feel like for men as well, especially, it feels very uncomfortable because, like, what do you mean listen to my body? What do you
Exactly.
mean, like, actually try to hear myself? Because their intuition isn't as
Yeah.
heightened, and
Yeah.
that internal conversation isn't as prevalent. But when it starts to get cultivated, and it's like, oh, I just know that I need to turn left here. Or when a man is like, I know the directions, and they can just like figure it out. That's you.
Yeah.
That's that. They already actually have the evidence that they know what to do to
Yeah.
listen to themselves, but it's all mental. And
Right.
so when they can start to channel that same, oh, I do know,
Right.
into the body, oh, it does know. Okay.
Right.
And then honor, if it's like, if you get that signal, hey, you went too far. Hey, that's not, I shouldn't be eating
Mhm.
this. The body, what if it's getting sick, whatever, it's gonna have that response. You're like, oh, okay, like, let me listen, let me tune in. And then coming back to it, and then reinforcing from that area to cultivate your intuition and deepen what your body knows.
Right. Absolutely. I think this is so, so right. And I used to, when I was doing my trainings, I always should listen to this phrase, rather hear this phrase, that listen to your body, listen to your body, listen to your body. But what does it actually mean? Nobody really tells you what does it actually mean, that listen to your body. And it takes that much more time to understand that what is really listening to your body, that I shouldn't, like you said, if I just have given a cue, okay, go into this posture, I shouldn't just go into it. I should understand, where do I need to stop? Okay, today I can go only maybe 10%. Fine. That's good. That's good enough. But tomorrow maybe I can go to 100 or 110%. Good. That's also good enough. But do I understand that? Do I really care about it, or am I always aiming for 100 because I'm not satisfied by a 10 or a 20? So I think that becomes extremely important about, listening to your body and being there in that presence, and then being there with ourselves, present with ourselves, that this is what we want to do and this is how we should be, or I would say we get to be rather than we should be or we have to be. So understanding that, you rather being grateful that you get to be doing something even remotely close to listening to your body is
Yeah.
the privilege, and that is what you should realize as a person, right? So
Yeah. I
so
think one more quick little tidbit right there is, I think a good way to gauge is, if you're listening to your body, is if after you're done with whatever it is that you're doing, how do you feel? And if you feel
Right.
like you just punished yourself, if you feel like you just you took a say let's just talk yoga, but like say you took a class at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're depleted until 2 p.m.
Right.
I don't think you were listening to your
Don't do
body.
it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Because apart from, I remember doing this, a while back. I think I used to go to hit the gym for about an hour and a half, and I used to work out very, very hard because, I was aiming at something. Oh, I want to get there. I want to be this. I want to be that. And then you get into that mode that I am going to do this. And what does that do? I used to feel exhausted for the rest of the day,
Mhm.
right? And it didn't, there came a time when my body started retaliating, and thankfully it retaliates very, very quickly. Thankfully, I'm very grateful for that, because because then the injuries don't become very, very big, right?
Yeah.
When they retaliate, when it retaliates very soon. So I started developing maybe a neck pain or something else. Then I had to stop. I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I'm gonna go sit with the physio. I'm gonna go back to my practice. I'm gonna do something lighter. And then when I got back, I was like, okay, this is not working. So you go slow. You go very, very slow, that this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna maybe go not all 7 days, maybe go 3, 4 days. And that is where I'll be. And before we end, and maybe we'll do this again sometime again, because
Yeah.
there's a lot more to cover, right? So let me just ask you one thing before we end here, that what would be your, if you can share, what is your personal mantra or a philosophy when it comes to showing up um, presently, or let's say powerfully and confidently in all areas of life? If you could share that
All
thing.
all things happen to me, for me, and through me with ease and grace.
Awesome. I think this is beautiful. And, this is so, so amazing. And if anybody can follow that, please go
Yes.
ahead and do that.
It
Let
has
all things come to
changed
me, happen to me with ease and grace, right?
with ease and grace. It's changed my life. Like it's literally you have an energy of acceptance.
Yes.
Whatever's happening, it is what it is. It's supposed to be happening.
Beautiful.
Whatever's meant to move through me, it does so gracefully. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Simone, for being here and
So great.
sharing all the beautiful things that you shared. And I hope that this episode resonates with our audience wherever they find it, either on YouTube or on Spotify. And thank you so much for being here. And it was a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.